Okay, in my email that I sent to everybody this week, I recommended that you don't do personal pre-document 5 until you participate in this meeting or watch the recording. And the reason I do that is because I'm going to encourage you, actually kind of almost strongly encourage you to not ignore, but consider doing goals differently than what's done in Inner Victory. Now, I am a huge fan of Inner Victory, and I believe everything that David Christensen teaches about doing goals. But there's been a lot of science, and there's been a lot of study, and there's been a lot of research on goal setting, and most of us don't do goals correctly. So what I'm going to do in the next few minutes, I'm going to share with you Inner Victory goal style, and then I'm going to tell you to do it a different way. And it's similar, but there's an important factor that I think that I would like you to consider. So what we spent last week doing and what you created with your personal creed document was you created a list of goal values. Now you're going to be able to have an opportunity to look at your values and from your values set goals. And the law that we're talking about this time is what Elder Christensen calls the law of growth. And that is, you can only grow if you stretch yourself, if you have to reach for something. So what we're going to teach you today is that you're going to consider developing what we call A goals. Now, your personal creed document, and this somehow in the syllabus and in the creation of this part of the online curriculum, a lot of people kind of miss the Z goals. Your personal creed document should have two sets of goals, A goals and Z goals. A goals are from your values. And so what you're going to do with your A goals is you're going to figure out, if I have a value in front of me, it could be my health, for example. I want to have a goal associated with that value, and I'm going to try to reach it. Well, the goal is what you want to achieve, and the objectives are how you're going to achieve it. That's the A goals. And you should have every one of your goals meet the S.M.A.R.T test. S.M.A.R.T is specific, measurable, action-oriented, realistic, and have a time element. And you should have an example. Here's an example. Okay, now this is a couple years old. I have a value in my personal creed document that I value my discipleship. I value my discipleship to the Savior, to his church. But one of the things that will improve my discipleship would be if I were to attend the temple regularly. So my goal statement is I will attend the temple at least twice monthly in this year. This is 2 years old, but I need to update this. I'll attend the temple at least twice monthly in 2018. And my objectives, how am I going to do that? I'm going to set a schedule. I'm going to do endowment sessions when I travel. I'll do family names, and I'll participate in any ward assignments that I might have. So let's look at this and see if it matches the S.M.A.R.T test. So attend the temple requires action, and it's very specific. I'm either going to go to the temple this month or I'm not going to go. It's specific and it requires action. Twice monthly, that's doable pre-COVID, hopefully post-COVID. That is doable living in Rexburg, Idaho. I live literally minutes from the temple. And it's measurable. I either do it or I don't do it. And there are actually two time elements in this statement. I have the time element of the year and I have the time element of the month. Well, I'm going to show you some bad examples in a minute. And again, I plead with you, to the 20 of you that are watching, you'll do it right. I'm hoping then that about 80 of you will watch the recording to do it correctly. But what I end up seeing when I see this personal creed document assignments being handed in is I see a lot of wish statements. And we're going to talk about those here in a minute. Okay? We talked about objectives. So if you want to follow Inner Victory, that's 100% great. You're going to have 5 to 7 value statements. You've already done that. And from your value statements, you're going to come up with some goal statements. So if I have 7 value statements, I'm going to set 7 goals. And they're going to look, each goal statement is going to look something like that. Okay. Passing this again. And then you should do Z goals. So think of the A goals as being the cake, and the Z goals as being the icing on the cake. The Z goals aren't associated with your values, and there may not be a time element. But this is like your bucket list, right? This is just kind of for fun. In my lifetime, I would like to go to Jerusalem. I'd like to take my wife back to the Philippines where I served my mission. I would like to really visit New Carmarthen, South Wales, where many of my ancestors are from, my Davis line. Now, when I say really visited, I went to England one time and we drove through New Carmarthen, South Wales, and we got gas. So I did not like spend time in that town. I'd like to spend time in that town. I'd like to write a book. I can actually check that one off. I'd like to win a photography contest, teach a class on computer graphics, pick my sons and daughters up from their missions. Failure there. I've had 3 sons, 2 sons and 1 daughter come home off their missions, and we didn't pull that off. I'd like to visit all major Civil War sites, and I'd like to meet John Stockton. So to sum up, I'm doing this fast because I'm going to blow this up and show you a different way to do it. I want everybody to do Z goals, right? Z goals, that's the icing part. But I'm going to talk about a different way to look at your A goals, okay? So 2 A goals and Z goals, if you do the inner victory way, okay? So let me ask a question, and I'm going to open up chat in case I see anything. Does anybody see a problem with this style of goal setting? Or if you want to talk to me, that would be awesome. Or maybe that's too much of a vague question. Maybe I could ask this question. We've all had times where we've set goals. If you were a missionary, it's just like part of missionary life, right? You have weekly goals, monthly goals, zone goals, district goals, mission goals. What is the challenge of setting goals? Why do most of us fail at it? We're goal achievers in life. We achieve things, right? You're going to get a college education, you're going to get a job. Those are goals. They may or may not be written down. So anybody, why is goal setting hard? Someone talk to me.
For me personally, I feel like when it comes to setting goals, I feel like it's difficult because I don't want to fail at them, and so I will set like an easier goal than I know that I I know I can achieve it, and then it doesn't really push me. I think also on top of that, a lot of times for me, some of the goals that I want to set are partially dependent on another person.
Yep.
And that makes it really difficult because I don't have control over what another person does.
Yeah.
I only have control over myself.
So 2 really good points, right? So we don't want to fail, and we're dependent, sometimes codependent on other people, right? So if you're married, for example, if you want to have a family goal, you better all be bought into it, or it's going to be. So Eliza, thank you. That was perfect. So the next question is, when we do set goals, why is it that we often don't succeed at goal achievement? Any ideas?
We forget them.
Okay, we forget them. Good. We write them down. That's why we're really good at New Year's resolutions, right? We write them down, and then a month later, they're forgotten. Okay, anybody else?
You can put them off, like say like, oh, I'll do them next time. Let me finish this before I take on that.
Hey, thank you for that. You're looking at the world's biggest procrastinator, so I understand that 100%. Okay, anybody else?
We set too many goals to keep up with.
Okay, that was Eliza, right? Eliza, did I pay you to say that?
No.
Okay, that's like the perfect, all of those are valid reasons, but the number one reason that we fail at goals is we set too many. Debbie, step-by-step process. It's hard to figure out how. Thank you for that, Karina. This is off of chat. Patrick, things are easy to give up. Starting is hard. Starting is really, really hard. I believe that. Activation energy is much higher than doing energy. That's a segue, Patrick. I'm going to mention something totally not planned in today's discussion. I started in my job at BYU Idaho about 8 years ago, the Power to Become conference. And I started that conference in my job because I went to a conference down in Salt Lake called Learn to Earn. We created our own version, Power to Become. One of the Learn to Earn conference I went to, there was a speaker called Richie Norton. His name's Richie Norton. And he said, what is the number one thing that you are not doing that you want to do, and you're either not doing it because of fear or procrastination? And he had us write it down. Well, I'd always wanted to write a book. And why did I not do it? I kept thinking exactly what Patrick said, starting is hard. And I was fearful, right? Could I really do it? Could I pull it off? And so as I was riding home from Salt Lake to Rexburg, I made a note, start today. And when I got home, I wrote sentence 1, paragraph 1 of an introduction to the book. And once I started, I just did it. But I was focused on it. Now, the book helped me more than it'll help anybody else, but that's a really good example. So pardon the segue away from that. So I'm going to introduce you to what we call the 4 disciplines of execution. This is, if you want to have a good book on your bookshelf for productivity, this is top 5 for me. So I'm not telling you that I'll go buy it, but one of the authors is Chris McChesney. Now, Chris McChesney is a dear friend of mine, become a dear friend. He spoke at the first Power to Become conference. But I like Chris McChesney because he went to Rick's College. And he was just like me. He was a poor student before college, became better at Rick's, and it just kind of launched him to more successful things. But what he teaches, and he works for the Covey folks, the Franklin Covey people. But what he teaches is that one of the reasons we don't do well at setting goals is we have what he calls the whirlwind, right? It's the real work that we're doing. It's day-to-day living, and it just sucks us in, right? I get to work every day, and I'm working from home, and real life happens, right? You have a phone call, you have an email, you have online meetings, you have to mow the lawn, you've got to deal with your kids, you've got to deal with your wife, and it just sucks up all that you're doing. Well, what he suggests is that you carve a little time out every day to work on what he calls your wildly important goal. It's called your WIG. And you should only have one at a time, okay? He says maybe 2, but 1. And I'm going to show you the science behind this, okay? Now, the reason we don't succeed in goal setting is because, and I've seen this in some of your personal creed documents, right? And I'm not judging you or grading anybody down if they have 20 value statements. And I'm not going to judge you or grade you down if you set 20 goals. But you'll have more success and you'll be more productive if you focus on 5 to 7 values. And from your values, you're still going to do the day-to-day living, right? The whirlwind. But you'll take a little bit of time and you're going to focus in on 1. Now, similar to S.M.A.R.T, what you want to do with your goal setting is you want to write it this way: from X to Y by when. And you should only work on 1 at a time, maybe 2, but I'm going to tell you to do 1. So here's an X to Y statement, okay? The X to Y statement says, I will weigh 160 pounds by July 1st, 2018. Well, it's July 1st in 2 days. That was 2 years ago. But let's just send this like 3 months from now or 6 months from now, okay? I will weigh 160 pounds by July 1st, 2018. Now, what this is what we call a lag measure, okay? The lag measure is something you can measure. I can stand on my scale every day and look down at the numbers and see, for me, I'm like stuck at 180. I weigh 180, 182 pounds every single day. Well, looking at that lag measure is not going to move the needle the right direction, right? So discipline 1 is a good start, but it won't happen without discipline 2, okay? Discipline 2 is, well, I'll point here. I'm going to sneeze. I apologize. Maybe not. Pardon me. Thank you for the God blesses that I didn't hear. Anyway, so there will always be more good ideas in Chris McChesney than we have ability to execute, a capacity to execute. Okay, so this is science. If you set 1 to 3 goals, again, I recommend 1. You'll likely achieve that 1 if you really focus on it. If you set 4 to 10 goals, you might achieve 1 or 2. If you set 11 to 20 goals, you will achieve none, okay? All right, discipline 2. This is where the real change happens. Discipline 2, you need to act on lead measures, okay? So the weight goal, my weight is a lag measure, okay? I have to do something to influence that, and that's the lead measure. So here's the science of discipline 2. What your lead measures are, they must influence the WIG, they must be predictable, and they must be measurable. And you should probably only have a couple of lead measures, okay? Calories burned, calories consumed, okay? I know that if I want to lose weight, I need to burn calories every day, and I need to consume less calories, okay? Or smarter calories, okay? These are kind of like your objectives, okay? So I'm going to pause this because I want to practice a different WIG with you, and I would like some feedback. You guys have been great to hop on and to chat. Let's say that my WIG was to earn a, let's pick this semester. I want to this semester have a 3.8 or better GPA. I want to have a 3.8 GPA by the end of this semester, okay? That's a good example of a lag measure. Now, me just having something that says I want to have a 3.8 GPA or a 4.0 GPA isn't going to make my GPA happen. I have to then determine 2 or 3 lead measures. So you guys are all students. What do you think would be good lead measures for a better GPA?
Complete all your homework on time.
Complete all your homework on time. Easy. Okay, not easy. That takes work, right? But all your homework on time. Okay, excellent. Thank you. Any others?
How many hours you spend doing schoolwork?
Okay, so determine I need to, this is kind of like the 8 to 5 model we talked about. I'll spend at least 4 hours a day doing homework. Okay, any others? Like don't miss class, right? Okay, so those would be some good examples of lead measures. So to illustrate what a lead measure looks like, I have this little graphic, okay? The lag measure, your weight or your GPA, is just sitting there. The lead measures, you know 2 things. If you exercise that lever, the lead measure will move the lag. And we predict that if you eat less and work out more, or if you study more, don't miss class, you're going to affect your GPA, okay? Does that make sense? All right. Discipline 3, okay? Discipline 3 is you need to create a compelling scoreboard. And your scoreboard, we like to win, right? We like to see that we're winning. Your scoreboard needs to be displaying 2 things. 1, where you are at with your lag or your WIG, and how you're doing daily with your lead measures. So I actually had one experiment. This is going to sound very prideful and very selfish. I took my wife to Belize a few years ago on a 9-day trip. and we had a great time. And I'd gone to the wellness center, and they told me that for my height, 5'8", and for my whatever structure of body, I should be 165 pounds. And I was at 182. And I thought, no one's going to care. I mean, I'm going to be on beaches in Belize, and I wasn't going to be like, a bodybuilder. But I didn't want to look horrible in my swimsuit at Belize. So I set out, and I followed this practice exactly, to get down to 165 pounds. And the way I did it was using MyFitnessPal. Now, the reason MyFitnessPal works is because it tracks daily your lag measure, your weight, and it's easy to track calories burned and calories consumed. And it displayed it graphically. Now, I wish I had an earlier graphic of this, because you can see here, this was on the 4th of January, and that's about when we went to Belize. I weighed 165 pounds, okay? And I could have gone back actually and looked at a previous chart on this. But what MyFitnessPal did for me on my phone, on my computer, is I could see, all right, I'm at 165, and today I did this for 30 minutes, which burned X number of calories, and for breakfast I had, a typical breakfast for me is a bowl of cereal and a piece of toast. And for lunch, I had a sandwich. And for dinner, I had this, this. And during the day, I had a candy bar and this. And it's telling you, good, you burned 1,000 calories today. You consumed 2,500 calories, but you're a net gain. And I was able to track how I was doing every day. So here's an example of a page on MyFitnessPal. This day, whatever day this was, I can't see a date. My goal, I exercised for 1,580. I consumed 1,490 or 1,067. So I was a net gain. And at that point, I had lost 7 pounds. Okay. So that's just an example. So whatever you do, have a scoreboard where you're keeping track of what you're doing. Okay. And then the fourth principle is you want to create a cadence of accountability. Now, this is where you need a partner, right? So a partner is you're going to have a weekly meeting or a group or a team. It might just be your journal. It might be your weekly time with MyFitnessPal. But you're going to account in your meeting for how you did this week. You're going to review the scoreboard, and you're going to make a renewed commitment this week to do better next week, or to continue to be on the path. You might have had a great week, and you're saying, all right, I studied, I did all this, I exercised, I ate right, and you'll have success. Now, President Monson, and I shared this quote in the email I sent out on a little meme. He kind of nails 4 disciplines of execution. He says this: when we deal in generalities, we shall never succeed. When we deal in specifics, we shall rarely have a failure. When performance is measured, that's the scoreboard, performance improves. When performance is measured and reported, the rate of performance accelerates. That's the cadence of accountability. So my invitation to all of you, so here's some, actually, I'll tell you the invitation in 1 second, okay? What I hope not to see when I look at your CRE document this week is what's in the left column. I'll try and lose weight. Rather, I will weigh 160 pounds by July 1st, 2018. That is from X to Y by when it also meets the SMART goal. Wish, be a better gospel scholar, okay? Read, preach my gospel, and mark all relevant scriptures by December 31st, 2018, okay? Have a more loving relationship with my spouse. Go on a minimum of 52 dates, 1 per week with my spouse this year, okay? So steer clear of left, look towards the right on these goals. So what I'm inviting you to do, this is actually going to mean that you do less homework. Make sure you do your Z goals, a list of a bucket list thing, and that's just for fun. But I'm inviting you, I'm encouraging you to do the WIG process. So the WIG process, if I look at your personal CRE document this week and I see one goal with one WIG, one wildly important goal with 2 to 3 lead measures, I'm going to shout hooray and make sure you get a good grade. Okay. Now, it doesn't mean that goal 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, or 7 aren't important, or that,
Hello.
yeah.
Out of a window. Why?
Okay.
'Cause I just realized you were-
1 second. I'll fix that. Hang on 1 second. All right. So the other goals that you have, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 goals, they're still important. That might be the next WIG, right? Do WIG 1 now. Once you get to 160 pounds, or you get that GPA, or you get to whatever you're seeking for, then put that one to rest. It might be part of the whirlwind now, right? Where it's just how you are. Then go to goal number 2. Work on one at a time, okay? All right. Now, here's some examples of old style goal setting, okay? This is A goals. I'm just going to use a couple. Value, health, complete P90X. This is really old now. Complete the P90X program in 2013. There's this suggestion, okay? So that's an example. I'm going to skip these because I really want you to do WIGs, okay? Study the scriptures. Let's do truth. Study the scripture at least 15 minutes a day. There's the objectives, okay? All right. I did that quickly because I'm hoping that you guys will do WIGs, which tells me that I want your goals to look like fast back, something like this. And if that's all I see on your goals and then some Z goals, perfect. Okay, our 30 minutes is like up. Any questions about what I'm asking?
So are we, oh, sorry.
Go ahead.
Are we essentially making goals to better our values that we wrote last week?
You want to make goals that are true to your values.
Okay.
That help you live by your values, yes.
Okay.
Now, you know, I can't imagine you picking a goal that's not important to you. So if the goal's important to you, it's going to be tied to a value. Does that make sense? Okay.
Yes.
Yeah, thank you. Other questions?
I actually have a second question.
Okay. Yeah.
So do you want us to write one goal per value or just one goal in general?
My recommendation is that you pick what goal is most important to you now and do just that one goal for this assignment.
Okay.
Now, that doesn't mean that that's going to be your last goal, right? It's just going to be your next goal. And the reason you want to focus on your next goal, and then if you'll take the extra step to scoreboard it with lead measures and have somebody that's going to help you be accountable to that goal, you're going to achieve that goal. And you're not going to be frustrated, and you're going to have that great feeling of, yes, I did it. I got to 165 pounds, right? Now, the irony is, for me, is once I got that goal and got back from Belize, I went to another goal, right? And I never stopped exercising, which means I was always doing one lead measure, but I stopped counting calories and I stopped using my Fitness Pal. Guess what happened to my weight? It came back, okay? So if I want to get back to 165, I need to then make that WIG 1, and I'm going to work on it. Now, the good news is, hopefully, that in the whirlwind part of your life, you're doing the things that you have just become habits, right? Morning and evening prayers, spending time in the scriptures, going to the temple regularly. If you're doing all those things anyway, great, and you're not needing to grow there. You've already reached that. So keep those good habits going, but spend that 20% of your time, or, you know, incorporate that into your 1% of your, you know, the living the law of 1%, and say, this is how I'm going to be. This is a great application for the law of 1%. You know, spend time with your scoreboard and say, how am I doing with this very important goal? That was fast. Any other questions?
Thank you.
Oh, you're welcome. Okay, so to be perfectly clear, I'm not going to grade anybody down if I see 10 goals, but I would invite you to say, of these 10 goals, I'm going to work on this one at a time. But I will really applaud you, and you know, if you'll, and that's why I suggest that you watch this recording or participate in this meeting before you do your Q document. I would love to see, I have like 98 students right now. I'd like to see 98 wigs. And 98, I'd like to read 98 total goals, one per student. And then I'd like to see about 8 to 10 bucket list goals just for fun. I just think it's important to have those things that you're aspiring to do. Okay, thank you all. I will stop this recording and I'll stay on if any of you have more questions. Thank you.